One lamp lights up the night. One sentence warms the heart. This is HL Whispers. Have you ever thought about this? One careless sentence can instantly destroy a relationship that took a lifetime to build. Today, let's talk about those words that seem casual, but are enough to make 99% of relationships collapse on the spot. Sometimes I think, if only I hadn't spoken those words at that moment. If only I had chosen silence instead. Maybe everything would be different. That's how words work when I speak. I think I'm only expressing my thoughts, just sharing my perspective. But the listener may feel something entirely different. From that day forward, the contact became less and less. The bond slowly faded. Was it that the other person was distancing themselves from me, or was I the one who let go first? Even now, I can't say for sure. Back then, I didn't realize, between people, there are indeed some words that should never be spoken. No matter how close you are, no matter how long you've known each other, once the wrong words are said, all the trust can collapse in an instant. And have you ever had that kind of experience? One thoughtless comment that cooled the relationship? Or a sentence someone once said to you that made you choose to walk away? Today, let's talk about those words that seem trivial yet are enough to break 99% of relationships. Don't scroll away too quickly. Maybe these are words you're saying right now, or maybe someone has already said them to you. So please listen carefully. This isn't just a reminder, it's also a mirror. If this message resonates with you, remember to like and subscribe. I'll continue to share sincere stories and reflections to accompany you and bring warmth into your life. The first story, a 20-year friendship destroyed by one political comment. Michael and David had been close friends for nearly 20 years. Their greatest shared passion was mountain climbing. Almost every weekend, they would meet at the same time, climb the same mountain, and walk the same familiar trail afterward. They would eat together at the same little restaurant. Even though their personalities were completely different, that contrast made the friendship feel lighter. They connected naturally without forcing it. It was the kind of steady, reliable friendship that felt like it could last a lifetime. But one day, That day, after their usual climb, they were at the restaurant, eating while the television news played. A Taiwanese politician appeared on screen. Michael put down his fork and said casually, why is this guy back again? People like him shouldn't even be in politics. It's a disgrace. David's hand froze. He replied coldly, the kind of person you're talking about is someone I've always supported. The air froze instantly. The smiles vanished. Their tones turned sharp. The conversation stopped being a discussion and turned into a fight. That's exactly why this country's a mess. You're the one who needs to wake up. I can't believe you're that clueless. Fine then, from now on, we go our separate ways. One meal became a farewell. From that day on, they never contacted each other again. In the hiking group chat, when new events were posted, both stayed silent. Neither reached out. 20 years of friendship ended in silence. Others didn't understand. How can you stop talking just because of a difference of opinion? But Michael and David knew the truth. That one careless sentence had already shattered the bond. What began as a difference of perspective turned into a battle of pride. And in the end, their hearts were wounded. Why are political topics so deadly? Psychology has long given us the answer. Political positions are not just opinions. They carry a person's values, their anger, and their beliefs. When someone's politics are denied, what they feel is not my opinion is different. They feel my very identity has been attacked. Psychologists call this identity threat. It doesn't touch the mind, it strikes the core of the self. That's why logic doesn't work. The more you try to explain, the worse the relationship becomes. And here's the most frightening part. Once politics breaks a relationship, it's almost impossible to repair. If you curse at someone, maybe you can still make up. But when it comes to political divisions, it often means goodbye forever, because emotions fade, but beliefs don't change. When beliefs are challenged, people make one conclusion: so this is who you really are. And then they walk away. As Nietzsche once said, thought does not stop at language. Language can be a blade, or it can be a foundation. And political talk is often the sharpest blade. It can slice apart 20 years of friendship in an instant, leaving a wound that can never heal. So let me remind you, never bring politics into your closest relationships. Whether it's with your spouse, your parents, your siblings, or your friends, even one political stance spoken aloud can turn people into strangers. The person smiling and chatting with you right now might, in the very next second, walk away from you forever, all because of one political comment. If you want to preserve a relationship, sometimes the wisest choice is simple. Keep your mouth shut and don't bring up politics. The second story, A Kind Intention That Ended a Friendship Forever. Linda had always liked her neighbor Grace. Grace was warm, generous, and always greeted people with a smile. They lived in the same neighborhood, often sharing homemade pickles and dishes. Their bond felt natural and warm. But one day, Linda noticed that Grace looked exhausted. Her husband was in the hospital, her children rarely contacted her, and the weight of life seemed to crush her. Seeing this, Linda felt sympathy and gently said, "Would you like to come to church with me sometime? Saying a prayer might make your heart feel lighter." Her tone was soft, her heart sincere, and she had no hidden agenda. Grace smiled and replied, "Sure, maybe someday when I have time." But from that moment on, a distance quietly grew between them. Grace no longer greeted Linda first. The little dishes they used to exchange stopped. Even in their group chat, her words became fewer and fewer. Linda felt confused and hurt. What did I say wrong? I meant well. Why is she avoiding me? Months later, Linda heard from another neighbor. Grace said she thought you were trying to pull her into church. She wondered if your friendship was always about that. In that instant, Linda's heart sank like a stone. That's not true. I never meant it that way. But the relationship was already gone. Why are religious topics so dangerous? Psychology gives us an explanation. When someone feels that their beliefs are being forced upon, they instinctively interpret it as, my very existence is being denied. At the University of Arizona, researchers ran an experiment. Participants were repeatedly exposed to religiously framed persuasion. The result, their liking and trust toward the speaker plummeted, especially phrases like, pray, and God will help you. If such words don't align with the listener's values, negative emotions multiply. So even if you explain, I'm saying this for your own good, the other person often hears. Are you saying my way of living is wrong? The damage from religious talk doesn't usually cause an immediate fight. Instead, it cools the relationship slowly, in silence. You notice, the person no longer reaches out. Replies to messages get slower. In person, the conversations get shorter. Even their eyes start to carry a subtle distance. The scariest part, they never tell you why. They don't confront you. They don't say, what you said hurt me. They simply withdraw quietly, leaving you with no chance to explain. That is the most frightening thing about religion as a topic. It leaves scars but gives no opportunity for repair. And once distance forms, in most cases, it never comes back. So remember this. Even with those closest to you, speak about religion with extreme caution. Even the most sincere words, if spoken the wrong way, may leave you with nothing but silence. The third story, sometimes. It takes just one sentence to make me feel so small. That day was a long-awaited class reunion. Everyone was already in their 60s, but seeing each other again filled the room with warmth. Laughter echoed as old memories resurfaced, as if time had turned back to youth. In the middle of the cheerful atmosphere, someone suddenly asked, "So, what's your son doing now?" One classmate beamed with pride. "My son just got into a government job. He's doing really well." Everyone responded with admiration. "Wow, that's amazing. We're all envious." Then another classmate shared, "Our daughter just came back from studying abroad, and she recently published an academic paper." Naturally, the conversation turned into a round of showing off the kids' achievements. Slowly, all eyes turned toward Mary. "Mary, how's your daughter doing these days?" Mary froze for a moment. She forced a smile and replied faintly, "Ah, she's doing okay." The truth was, her daughter Emily had recently quit her job and hadn't found a new one yet. She had been feeling low, preparing for exams every day. Weighed down by pressure and uncertainty, Mary saw it all, and it broke her heart. After the reunion, Mary returned home and gently opened Emily's door. On the desk lay piles of exam prep materials and job applications. Emily was slumped by the bed, staring blankly out the window. Silent at that moment, Mary's heart ached. In her mind, she whispered to her daughter, "My child, I'm so sorry today at the reunion. I couldn't proudly say your name." I laughed and brushed it off as if I didn't even have the courage to protect you. You're working so hard, but I couldn't stand tall and be proud of you. From that day on, Mary never their class reunion. Why are children as a topic the easiest to wound? Because when people talk about their kids, it's not just daily life. It's tied to a parent's dignity and sense of self-worth. For their generation, children are considered the final report card of a parent's life. A child's success is seen as a parent's honor. A child's struggles are often equated with a parent's failure. So when someone casually asks, "So, what's your child doing these days?" it may sound like a simple expression of care, but to the person on the receiving end, it can feel like a hidden blade stabbing at the heart. When such questions come up again and again, the conversation stops being sharing and instead becomes silent comparison. Naturally, people start to feel pressure, even avoidance, the psychology behind it. At the University of California, Berkeley, researchers once conducted a study on how social comparison affects emotions. The results showed family topics, especially children's achievements, were among the most powerful triggers of emotional reaction. Compared with other types of comparison, when it involves children, the damage to parental self-esteem, feelings of defeat, and tendency to avoid the subject were more than double. In other words, while one parent may think they're just sharing happiness, the listener feels like an emotional time bomb has gone off inside them. Talking about kids is even more dangerous than bragging about yourself, because the hidden message is, "I succeeded in raising my child. What about you?" But children are not bargaining chips. Every child has their own pace. Some move forward smoothly. Others stumble and search. What parents can do is not compare children like trophies, but stand by them quietly, waiting with patience. So before you bring up children in conversation, pause and ask yourself, will what I'm about to say make the listener feel comfortable? If the answer is no, then those words are not warmth. They are a silent knife, and when that knife cuts, the relationship may not break immediately, but it will leave a scar, and often that scar will never heal. This is why children as a topic may seem ordinary, yet can completely shatter a bond. The fourth story. One sentence that suddenly made me feel small and powerless. It was a long-awaited family gathering. All the siblings came together at the old family house. They ate, chatted, and laughed. The atmosphere was light and cheerful. Then, Robert, the eldest brother, suddenly put down his chopsticks and said casually, "When I helped my kids get married, I didn't rent them an apartment. I bought them a house outright. Nowadays, if you can't even do that, how can you call yourself a responsible parent?" The words had barely landed when Susan, sitting nearby, froze with her chopsticks mid. Ere her heart sank, she couldn't even cover much of her daughter's rent. From the wedding until now, her daughter's family had been moving from one rental place to another. Susan didn't argue. She just forced a smile and nodded. But deep inside, her chest tightened, and even sitting at that table felt unbearable. From then on, Susan gradually distanced herself from Robert. She replied to messages less and less. She found excuses to avoid gatherings. The once close sibling bond quietly faded. Why money hurts the most? Because it's never just about economics. Hidden in that sentence was a comparison. I could do it, but you couldn't. I have ability, but you come up short. This unspoken judgment weighs heavily, and even among the closest siblings creates feelings of inferiority and distance, especially for their generation of parents. Being able to buy a house for your children has almost become a symbol of dignity and ability. Once that point is touched, the conversation ends, and the heart quietly closes. Psychological evidence A study at Harvard University found when family conversations involve financial support for children, the emotional distance between relatives increases by an average of more than 40%. Even more striking, over 80% of participants said, "I don't want to talk about this topic anymore." We assume that with family, anything can be said, but the reality is, the closer the relationship, the deeper the wound caused by one careless comparison. What true parenting means, it's not about showing off how much you gave, nor proving with numbers how capable you are. What truly matters is this: does your child feel safe because of you? Do they see you as someone they can rely on? Compared to houses and money, companionship and understanding are the treasures that children carry with them for life. So between siblings, between friends, when money comes up, don't let it turn into comparison. Let it be support and comfort. Because what keeps family bonds alive has never been the amount in your pocket, but the amount of care and warmth in your heart. So, what kinds of words can truly warm someone's heart and even make a relationship deeper and stronger? The first sentence: what are you learning these days? Have you noticed that nowadays, when we meet others, even small talk feels cautious? The moment politics comes up, the atmosphere freezes. When kids are mentioned, it turns into subtle comparison. And if money is brought up, people tense up instantly. Sometimes you might think maybe it's better not to say anything at all. Silence feels lighter. But in moments like this, if you gently ask, "What are you learning these days?" the effect is often completely different. Don't underestimate this question. It actually carries 3 layers of meaning. 1, I care about you. 2, we believe you're still growing. 3, I respect your current life. When the other person hears this, they instinctively reflect on their own life, and a quiet self-awareness rises in their heart. I experienced this myself. At a gathering once, someone I barely knew suddenly asked me, "What are you learning these days?" I froze, thinking, I guess I haven't really been learning anything. But then they continued, "I've been learning how to ride a bike. I always wanted to ride with my daughter along the river." Hearing that, something warmed inside me. I felt a little guilty, but also deeply touched. So I smiled back and said, "I've been relearning how to cook. I used to just throw meals together for my family. Never really thoughtful, but now I'm learning to cook a real meal just for myself." In that moment, we smiled at each other. There was no showing off, no one feeling small. That was real conversation. The German writer Goethe once said, "When dealing with people, don't just see who they are now, but see who they may become." And the question, "What are you learning these days?" carries exactly that respect and expectation. Of course, sometimes people will respond with a bitter smile. "Learn what? I can barely make it through each day." At that point, you can respond, "That's truly remarkable. Just getting through life every day is the hardest lesson of all." Or say, "Actually, living itself is a form of learning." For example, the calmness and kindness in the way you speak. No book can teach that. A simple response like this can warm the other person's heart and make you someone with both character and compassion. So don't underestimate the question, "What are you learning these days?" It's not really about knowledge. It's about asking, how are you living right now? And most importantly, whatever the answer is, it's always valid. Even if someone says, "I'm not learning anything," that is their truest state in the moment. Your willingness to accept and respect, that is the rarest kind of kindness. So next time you see someone, don't rush into heavy topics. A gentle, simple, "What are you learning these days?" might brighten their whole day. And it may also brighten your own heart with more understanding and respect. The second sentence, "What's fascinating you these days?" In conversations, what creates awkward silence isn't running out of topics, but our lack of curiosity about each other's worlds. So when you ask, "What's fascinating you these days?" it's not just small talk, it's a sincere invitation. Because when someone hears this, they immediately recall moments when they were absorbed, passionate, and joyful aunts. At a book club, I casually asked someone I just met, have you read anything you especially enjoyed recently? Their eyes lit up. I've been completely hooked on the philosophy of walking, doing nothing but walking slowly, and somehow my mind becomes so clear that feeling is addictive. Hearing this, I was moved too. Suddenly, I wanted to take a long walk and experience that calm, lucid joy. Obsession means life is vivid. It doesn't matter whether it's a television show, gardening, pets, cooking, traveling, or crafting. What matters is the focus and passion. That's what makes someone feel alive, and it's what gives conversations warmth. Of course, some people may sigh and say, honestly, I don't feel drawn to anything right now. At that point, you could respond. That means you're recharging. This is your time to rest and refuel. Or, I really resonate with that. I've gone through phases like that too. Even a simple response like this makes them feel, someone actually understands me. In that instant, the distance between hearts shortens. The French thinker Voltaire once said, if you want to truly know someone, look at what they love. So when you ask, what's fascinating you these days? What you're really asking is, where is your joy? When someone talks about what they love, their most authentic self emerges. And when you accept that part of them, trust is built naturally. So next time you meet someone, don't rush to fill the silence with news or gossip. Instead, gently ask, what's been lately? Maybe this simple question is like a gentle invitation, one that quietly brings two hearts closer together. Third, how did you learn that? Deep down, people long to tell their stories, especially when someone looks at you with genuine curiosity and says, wow, you really know your stuff? How did you learn that? In that moment, the door to the heart swings wide open. The power of this question lies in respect. It's not just about the outcome, it's about valuing the process and the reason why. It means the other person doesn't just care about what you know, they truly want to know you. I experienced this myself. I had a friend who was amazing at growing flowers. Her balcony was filled with plants blooming in every season. Not one of them wilted. I was stunned. So I couldn't help but ask, how do you keep your plants so healthy? Her eyes instantly lit up. Her words began to flow. I used to kill plants all the time. I even cried about it once. After that, I studied hard, sunlight, wind, water. I researched every detail. At that moment, I realized she wasn't just cultivating plants. She was cultivating her own heart. Sometimes one simple question can draw out a person's entire life story. Questions like, where did you learn that? What made you think that way? These invite people to share their knowledge, their experiences, even their beliefs. And if the listener doesn't criticize, but listens with true curiosity, right then, a bond quietly forms. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, man only truly exists when his existence is recognized. Asking, how did you learn that, is a way of recognizing someone's existence. It draws out more of their story without creating superiority or defensiveness. It's not empty flattery, it's deep attention, and it's this kind of attention that gives words their quality and makes relationships deeper. So next time you're touched by someone's story, try gently saying, how did you learn that? At that moment, you're no longer just a casual conversational partner. You become the person who truly wanted to hear my story. Fourth, when did you first start liking it? Some questions may sound casual, but they can softly knock on the door of the heart. For example, when did you first start liking it? It's not just an inquiry about hobbies. It's a journey back to the roots of someone's feelings. When people talk about what they love, their whole demeanor changes. Eyes brighten, voices soften with warmth. If you ask, when did you first start liking it? They naturally return to the moment that touched them deeply. I once had a friend who loved coffee. I asked, when did you first start liking coffee? He paused, then smiled. It was when I was 20. Working my first job at a cafe making coffee for different customers taught me not just flavors, but how to understand people. And I realized he wasn't telling me a story about coffee. He was telling me about his encounter with life. Questions like this don't just stay on the surface, they reveal the experiences that shaped a person. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We're always moving toward the future. But the meaning of our experiences often only surfaces when we look back. So asking, "When did you first start liking it?" is like a gentle invitation, one that carries you back through time to understand someone's story. Whether it's a hobby, a favorite meal, or just an ordinary routine, behind it lies a reason, a memory, and a piece of their unique journey. That's why this question doesn't trigger defensiveness. Instead, it opens the heart, so next time you're chatting and someone mentions what they like, don't just respond with, "Oh, really?" Instead, sincerely ask, "When did you first start liking it?" At that moment, what you receive isn't just an answer. It's an invitation to step into their past, and because of that feeling of being understood, they may quietly hand you their heart. Fifth, is there something you still really want to do? At certain stages of life, we stop talking about the future, because just surviving the present feels like it takes everything we have. Dreams start to feel distant, almost like they no longer belong to us. But deep down, isn't there always that one thought? That one thing you've dreamed about countless times, but have never actually done. When someone asks you about it, you suddenly feel alive again. That is the power of this question. Is there something you still really want to do? It's not a casual question about future plans. It gently touches the flame that hasn't gone out in someone's heart. Once, at a small neighborhood cafe, a friend suddenly asked me, "So, what's the one thing you most want to do in the future?" I froze. Years of being weighed down by reality had made me forget my true desires. Then he smiled and said, "For me, I've always wanted to go to the seaside one day, find a quiet place with no interruptions, and write a book of my own." In that moment, my heart ached. Yes, I had once dreamed like that too, but it had long been buried away. The French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau once said, "Man can only grow within his dreams." So this question isn't small talk. It's a way of helping someone awaken to new possibilities. Of course, some people will answer, "To be honest, I don't even know what I want." If that happens, you can gently say, "That's okay. You can take your time, one day, the answer will come." Or sincerely say, "I understand, I've been through that too." Just a few simple words can make someone feel truly understood. Is there something you still really want to do? This question is like a small lamp quietly lighting up in someone's heart. Maybe for the first time, they'll find the courage to speak out a long-hidden dream. Maybe for the first time, they'll admit to a desire they've never let go of. So next time you're face to face with someone, try asking this gentle question. You may be surprised to find that, in that moment, you've become a companion in their future journey. In today's world, conversations feel more cautious than ever. Politics, money, children, religion, almost everything seems like forbidden ground. So our conversations get shorter and our silences get longer. But that doesn't mean hearts have to drift apart. Even if we avoid the topics that wound, we can still find gentle ways to draw closer. What are you learning these days? What's fascinating you lately? How did you learn that? When did you first start liking it? Is there something you want to do? These 5 questions don't hurt people. They make people smile, soften their hearts. They are little keys to open relationships. Remember, words can be few, but care can be deep. Sometimes one question can change someone's whole day, and you, through your questions, show your true warmth and character. Explaining things in complicated ways will never compare to one heartfelt question. Because true conversation is not about winning or losing, it's about bringing light to each other. In today's society, the people who can bring warmth into conversation are the most precious of all. So don't forget, maybe one sentence from you could truly save someone's heart. From today on, let's all try to be people of warmth. We may not change the coldness of the world, but in one greeting, we can place our sincerity. In one glance, we can bring comfort. In one reply, we can pass along warmth. Thank you for staying with me until the end. This is HL Whispers. I firmly believe one sincere sentence can, in an unexpected moment, save a soul that's about to break. Life may not be perfect, but as long as kindness remains in our hearts, we will never truly be alone. I hope tonight's story has given you a moment of peace and comfort. If you'd like, leave your thoughts in the comments. Maybe your one sentence will be the courage someone else needs to keep going. And don't forget to like and subscribe so we can meet again on another night and continue to accompany each other.